Have you ever met someone, a man or a woman, who seems genuinely interested in everything at once? One week they're deep into philosophy, the next they're building something with their hands, then suddenly they're learning a new language, then they're gone into music, or coding, or cooking. And what makes it even more fascinating is they're actually good at all of it. Not just dabbling, actually absorbing, learning, growing. But here's what's strange. The people around them don't celebrate this. They get confused by it. They say, "Why can't you just pick one thing?" Or "You never commit to anything." And the person on the receiving end of those words quietly starts to wonder, is something wrong with me? That question is what we're going to answer today. We're going to explore what's actually happening in the minds of people like this, why society struggles to understand them, and why, far from being a flaw, this way of thinking might be the most powerful mental pattern a human being can have. If you know someone like this, or if you are one yourself, stay with me, because by the end of this, you will never look at yourself or them the same way again. So let's start at the beginning. What actually is this? In psychology, this pattern of thinking has a name. It's called being a multipotentialite, and the brain that operates this way is sometimes referred to as an M-type brain. The M stands for multidimensional. These are people, men and women both, whose minds are wired not for depth in a single direction, but for breadth across many. They don't just have one passion, they have 5 or 10, and each one feels completely real and completely important to them. Research from the University of Wisconsin found that individuals with multiple diverse areas of interest demonstrate significantly higher levels of creativity and problem-solving ability than those who specialize early. In other words, this isn't disorder, this isn't confusion, this is a distinct and powerful cognitive style. How do you recognize an M-type mind? There are several clear signs. The first is that they are almost never satisfied with surface-level information. If you tell them something, they will ask why. Then they'll ask how. Then they'll ask what happens if that's not true. They don't accept things at face value, not because they are difficult, but because their mind genuinely needs to understand the root of things. The second sign is that they need time alone, not because they dislike people, but because their inner world is incredibly rich. They can spend hours inside their own thoughts and feel completely fulfilled. Many people misread this as coldness or arrogance. It is neither. The third sign is that they have a very unusual relationship with boredom. Most people get bored. These people rarely do. There is always something new pulling at their attention, always something they haven't fully understood yet, always another door they haven't opened. And the fourth sign, perhaps the most defining, is that they experience genuine, deep enthusiasm for things others consider unrelated. A man who loves ancient history, hip-hop production, and marine biology. A woman who's passionate about financial markets, pottery, and sports psychology. To them, these things are not random. They are all threads of the same deeper curiosity. Now, why does this happen? What actually causes an M-type brain to work this way? The first reason is neurological. Some people are simply born with brains that have stronger connective tissue between different cognitive domains. They naturally synthesize information across areas. They can't help it. That's just how they are wired. The second reason is environment. If someone grew up in a home where questions were welcomed, where books were everywhere, where they were allowed to explore different interests without being forced to narrow down, their brain developed along an expansive path. They were given permission to be curious. The third reason is a deep, almost uncomfortable desire to understand the world fully. M-type minds are not content knowing a little about everything. They want to go deep, but then they want to go deep into the next thing too, and the one after that. The curiosity doesn't switch off. It just redirects. The fourth reason is something more personal, independence of thought. These individuals, somewhere along the way, decided not to let other people tell them what they were allowed to be interested in. And because of that decision, they let their mind go where it wanted to go. That freedom shaped them. Now, before we go further, I want to pause for a moment. If you've been watching until here, it means this topic is speaking to something in you. So please take a second and hit the like button. It genuinely helps more people find this content. And if you are an M-type person or you know one, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What's the one interest people in you Now let's talk about something harder, because it's one thing to say this is a gift. It's another to live it, especially when the world around you keeps telling you it's a problem. The first difficulty M-type people face is that they are consistently misread. When a man shifts from one project to the next, people call him scattered. When a woman moves from one interest to another, people say she doesn't know what she wants. But the truth is, they know exactly what they want. They want all of it. That's not the same as wanting nothing. The second difficulty is in relationships. Partners, friends, and family often want someone who is predictable, someone whose world is easy to understand. An M-type person is many things, but predictable is not usually one of them, and so they often feel like they need to shrink themselves to fit into spaces that were never built for them. The third difficulty is the pressure to specialize. Society rewards specialists. Schools train people to pick a lane. Careers are built around titles. And the M-type person sits at this intersection and is told, you have to choose. And choosing feels like amputation, because each interest is genuinely real to them. Giving one up isn't a practical decision. It feels like losing a part of who they are. The fourth difficulty, and this is an important one, is that they often struggle to find people who truly get them. Not because they are strange or broken, but because the combination of things they care about is so specific to who they are that there are simply fewer people walking around with the same configuration. But here is where the story shifts, because despite all of that, and I mean despite all of it, M-type people carry qualities that most of the world is quietly searching for. The first quality is that they are exceptional problem solvers. Because they've absorbed knowledge from so many different domains, they can pull from multiple fields at once. They don't solve problems from one angle, they solve them from 5. The second quality is that they are deeply adaptable. When the world changes, and the world is always changing, they don't panic. They've already been practicing change their entire lives. They know how to enter something new and find their footing quickly. The third quality is that they bring originality to everything they touch. When you mix history with technology, or art with science, or philosophy with business, you create things that specialists, by definition, cannot create. The M-type person lives at those intersections. That's where the most interesting things exist. The fourth quality is that they never stop growing. They don't arrive at a destination and stop. The moment they've mastered something, they're already hungry for the next thing. This makes their lives remarkably rich and remarkably long in meaning. The fifth quality is honesty. M-type people tend not to perform for others. They show up as who they actually are. They've spent too long being misunderstood to bother pretending to be someone they're not. So how should someone with an M-type mind actually live? What does it look like to embrace this rather than fight it? First, accept that you are not broken. This is the most important step and also the hardest, because the message that something is wrong with you has come from too many directions for too long. But it was never true. It was just a misunderstanding spoken with confidence. Second, stop waiting for permission to pursue all of your interests. You do not need to justify why you care about the things you care about. You do not owe anyone an explanation for who you are. Third, find your people. Not everyone will get you. That's fine. But there are others out there who think the same way you do. Communities built around curiosity, around learning, around crossing borders between discipline, find those spaces. They exist. Fourth, build your life around your nature, not against it. If you're a person who thrives on variety, stop trying to build a life that demands you pick one thing. There are careers built on synthesis. There are businesses built on range. There are paths that reward exactly what you are. Fifth, understands that the world actually needs you. Not despite your M-type mind, but because of it. Every major problem the world is currently facing, climate, health, technology, inequality, is too complex for any one discipline to solve alone. It requires people who can hold multiple frameworks at once and find unexpected connections. That is not a rare skill. That is your default mode. So if you've spent years believing that your restlessness was a flaw, that your wandering curiosity was something to be managed or apologized for, I want you to hear this clearly. You were never the problem. The box was. Your mind was built for a world more complex than the one that judged you for it. And that world, it's finally arriving. The most interesting, most needed, Most creative people in the next generation are not going to be the ones who stayed in one lane. They are going to be the ones who couldn't be put in a box and never stopped being grateful for that. Keep going. Learn everything. Refuse to be one thing. And say it without hesitation, I contain multitudes, and every single one of them is exactly where it belongs. That's everything for today. If this video resonated with you, please like it and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe if you haven't already and hit the bell so you never miss a new video. I'll see you in the next one.